Well, kids get report cards and so do districts. Upper Arlington has earned an excellent with distinction rating for 12 years. Stellar results that repeatedly compelled residents to approve tax increases for the schools and their 5,800 students. But change came late last year. One reason Watchdog 10 is looking at some of UA's spending practices.
For approximately the first time in 20 years, the operating levy in Upper Arlington failed.
Voters, including George Mamarove and Dan McCormick, say the Educate UA movement, born to fight the levy, opened eyes to post-recession school spending. As residents' incomes declined, they contend district administrators and staffers raked in more.
The more you got into it, the more you saw extravagances, what I would consider to be extravagance, especially when measured against the private sector.
Were they disgruntled homeowners not willing to support education, or citizens validly concerned about wages, benefits, and beyond? For 2 months, we asked for and examined hundreds of documents to see how the district uses tax dollars. For meals alone, over 1 year, UA residents paid about $4,300 to cover district staffers dining in town and on the road. What was on the menu? In the most elaborate cases, rack of lamb, filet mignon, and shrimp brochette.
We found receipts from places like Cap City Diner and the Columbus Fish Market for working lunches, public money funded, to talk about things like the levy.
The taxpayer is paying them to go to a meeting and enjoy a nice meal so they can figure out how to get more money from the taxpayer.
Tax bucks also paid for this info session on passing school tax issues. That conference was right here in Columbus. Not all are. In the months leading up to the levy, these records show district staffers traveled far and wide.
People just don't go wherever they want. They have to send in the appropriate purchase order, justify that expense.
One that got approval, a trip to Seattle for the National Council on Education for Ceramic Arts. Price tag, almost $5,000. There were also education trips to Riviera Maya, Mexico, Scottsdale, Tucson, New Orleans, Miami, Houston, Tampa, Savannah, Virginia Beach, Nashville, and Denver. Superintendent Jeffrey Weaver explains.
And you want your employees to remain on the cutting edge, so to speak, to be able to be exposed to best practices.
Our 2 longtime Upper Arlington residents get it.
I understand the value of continuing education.
But some of what we found in our Watchdog 10 review raised their eyebrows, like a conference in Napa Valley.
It was an urban school superintendent's conference in Napa Valley.
Urban.
Urban.
Okay.
Does Upper Arlington fit into that definition?
No, it doesn't fit into the urban definition per se, but some of the things that they do could benefit districts like ours.
And Weaver says as a USAA board member, the conference covered some of his expenses, but tax dollars covered the rest. They also covered a trip to Boston for 5 board members. Registration cost almost $4,500, not including air, hotel, and meals.
I know our board is and our administrators are very committed.
Board President Bob Arkin even had a high-profile presentation at the conference. It wasn't all work, though. Arkin posted these baseball pictures on his Facebook page with comments like, "Day 2, looks like Boston shows up." It was a Saturday afternoon, Red Sox versus Yankees, game time 4:05. Keep in mind, Arkin's final conference session didn't end until 5 o'clock. In this email, he told us he left the session halfway through for the ball game. He wrote, quote, "I did not feel at all bad about getting to Fenway to see the game. Someone obtained the ticket for me."
Is that the best way to spend taxpayer money?
Well, that's sort of I guess an I gotcha question, and I can't speak for the board as I was not at that conference, but I know that when board members travel, I think there's an obligation for all our staff to attend the sessions.
It's the taxpayers picking up the tab. It's not their money.
I find that troubling.
Especially, he says, when you consider the current climate. After the levy failed, parents learned they'll be paying more for their students to play school sports. The district cut 30 teaching positions. Weaver says the belt likely will tighten around out-of-state travel, too.
There's still ways to bring in new knowledge to a district that could be done at home as well as on the road.
For the record, the board president says he did attend sessions in Boston. Now, UA spent almost $200,000 on travel and conferences in 2011-2012. Should the cash go to something else? critics say it might not be a question if UA tackled bigger issues, pensions, salaries, and benefits. The district tells me it will look at those when contracts allow and already has made $6 million in cuts.